You know, every empire truly believes it's different, until it isn't. Think about it. Rome, Spain, Britain, and now, many argue, America. It's the same story, unfolding again and again. This is how empires die. Right now, the United States seems to be following a familiar, almost eerie path. Spiraling debt, rampant money printing, soaring inflation. Today we're tackling a heavy but crucial topic, one that every empire, no matter how powerful, has faced. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Decode Empires, the channel where we dig deep into the patterns that shape our world. And a collective, pervasive denial. It's like watching a historical replay. The same 7 stages that led to the demise of every grand empire before are unfolding right before our eyes. The real question isn't if this pattern is happening, but where exactly we are within it. Because here's the stark truth. They all collapsed the same way. Debt, money printing, inflation, denial. And now, the United States stands at that very same crossroads. This is Decode Empires, and our mission is to uncover these patterns, to understand not just what built the greatest powers in history, but what ultimately destroyed them. Because let's be honest, to even begin to understand our future, you absolutely must first grasp how empires fall. Across 2 millennia, the collapse of empires has followed a chillingly consistent 7-stage process. It starts with overextension, leading to overspending, then currency debasement, which ignites inflation, followed by a devastating loss of confidence, and finally, the inevitable collapse. We saw it happen to Rome, when the precious silver vanished from its coins, diminishing their worth piece by piece. Spain experienced it when their New World silver, once a source of immense power, became so plentiful it was practically worthless. Britain faced it head-on when the pound was cut loose from its gold standard. And here in the US, we saw a pivotal moment when Nixon famously cut the dollar free from gold in 1971. The lesson is clear. Every empire begins with real, tangible wealth, and far too often, it ends with nothing but printed promises. Let's visualize this historical progression. Imagine the robust Roman silver coin, a symbol of their vast empire. Then, centuries later, the Spanish cracked coin, hinting at its dwindling value. Next, the once glorious British faded gold coin, reflecting its diminishing power. And now, today, picture the US dollar, slowly but surely turning gray. It's a powerful visual metaphor, isn't it? Consider the numbers today. US debt has alarmingly surpassed $36 trillion. The Federal Reserve prints trillions, ostensibly to stabilize markets. But what's the real cost? Inflation, that silent predator, eats away at our savings, gnaws at our wages, and erodes our purchasing power. Every empire starts its journey in much the same way. Powerful, proud, seemingly unstoppable. Rome once ruled entire continents, its legions unmatched. Spain commanded the oceans, its galleons bringing riches from across the globe. Britain, at its peak, controlled a quarter of the Earth's landmass. And America today? It holds the reins of the global reserve currency, the almighty dollar. Its military presence felt worldwide. In this initial, glorious stage, everything appears to work perfectly. The currency is trusted implicitly, the economy is booming, and the military is unrivaled. It's the illusion of permanence, the golden age, precisely the calm before the storm, right before the slow, insidious decline truly begins. But power, as history repeatedly shows us, breeds ambition. The empire expands, stretching its tendrils further and further. More borders to defend, more allies to fund, more promises to keep. Rome famously stretched across 3 vast continents. Britain, as we noted, ruled a significant portion of the planet. And today, the US maintains hundreds of military bases scattered across the globe. This outward expansion often feels like a triumphant victory, a sign of strength, but in reality, it's often the very first crack in the foundation. Because every single mile of control, every distant outpost, every strategic alliance costs money. And money, my friends, never stops demanding payment. The costs, predictably, keep climbing. Wars rage on, welfare programs expand, weapons systems become more complex and expensive, and bureaucracy metastasizes. Revenue simply cannot keep pace with these ever-growing expenditures. So, what do leaders do? They borrow, they issue bonds, they raise debt ceilings, and they promise everyone with reassuring smiles that it's all under control and merely temporary. But slowly, subtly, the deficit becomes a permanent fixture. The empire is no longer earning its power through organic growth and productivity. It's financing it through borrowed funds. And that, my friends, is when the countdown truly begins. When the mountain of debt grows too large, too overwhelming to ever realistically repay, the rulers resort to cheating the system. It's an age-old trick. Rome, in its desperation, reduced the silver content in its coins, effectively diluting their value. Spain, overwhelmed by the influx of New World silver, ironically found its currency debased by abundance. Britain, facing economic pressures, abandoned the gold standard. And here in America, we've seen trillions printed seemingly out of thin air. They give it fancy names: stimulus, quantitative easing, monetary policy. But beneath the sophisticated terminology, it's the same old crime, turning real, hard-earned value into fake, ephemeral wealth. This is the stage where the empire starts eating its own currency alive. More money chasing the same amount of goods means one thing: prices explode. Inflation, once a silent whisper, becomes a roaring fire. The wealthy, with their assets and investments, often find ways to protect themselves, even thrive. But the middle class? They are drowned in debt, their savings evaporating, their purchasing power plummeting. Every empire has lived this scene. Rome's bread, once affordable, eventually cost 50 times more. Spain's silver, once a symbol of its might, lost all its worth. Britain's pound fell again and again, eroding trust. And now you see it reflected in your weekly grocery bill. This is the stage where the grand lie becomes undeniably visible. And denial, that comforting blanket, begins to turn into outright panic. Then comes the most critical juncture, the moment trust dies. Because when trust dies, everything else begins to die with it. Roman soldiers, facing a debased currency, eventually demanded payment in pure gold, not coins. Foreign nations, witnessing Spain's economic woes, refused its bonds, seeing them as worthless promises. The world, sensing Britain's diminishing economic power, abandoned the pound as a global standard. And now, alarmingly, we see countries worldwide actively moving away from the US dollar, exploring alternative trade currencies. When people, both at home and abroad, realize the empire can no longer pay its bills, they stop believing in its money. And when money loses faith, the empire inevitably loses control. Then comes the reckoning. Markets crash, currencies crumble, governments falter and fall. Rome burned, metaphorically and literally. Spain went bankrupt, its vast wealth disappearing like smoke. Britain lost its empire, its global dominance slowly but surely fading away. And America? History, as always, is watching us. Because collapse isn't some sudden, cataclysmic event. It's merely the final, undeniable act of denial. Empires don't typically die by external invasion alone. They die from self-inflicted rot, from decay within. The cycle, my friends, is absolute and relentless. Overextension, overspending, currency debasement, inflation, loss of confidence, and finally, collapse. Every empire, every single time. If listening to this has opened your eyes, if it's made you think differently about our world, then please subscribe to Decode Empires. Because when this ancient pattern completes its terrifying circle, and it always does, you'll want to understand exactly what happened and why. History doesn't lie. The pattern never fails. This is Decode Empires, where we expose the truth behind money, power, and the rise and fall of nations. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of this vital conversation. If you found this insightful, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into history and current events. Your support helps us keep uncovering these crucial truths. See you next time.